Hello everyone, welcome to the MMO Diary, a series where I record my journey in an MMO. For the first game in this series, I want to play Old School RuneScape, an MMORPG developed by Jagex. Old School RuneScape was released on February 2013 and is available on Steam, iOS, Android, and the Jagex launcher. This version of RuneScape is a re-release of RuneScape 2 using a backup revision from August 2007. RuneScape 2 was my first MMO, and while I spent hundreds of hours running around the world, leveling and questing, I never really got to see much of the game. Thus, I thought with this series it would be a perfect opportunity to dive into the game that made me love MMOs and witness all the content and experiences that I never got to see. When you first log in, you'll be welcome to Tutorial Island, with the first steps to name and customize your character. Went with Daijibo as I did when I originally played. Tutorial Island is really in the name. It is all about teaching you some of the basic skills of the game, as well as important information such as banking, account management, social features, and lastly, additional game modes such as Iron Man mode. The tutorials are quite straightforward, going over the skills and their various mechanics using a yellow or flashing UI to draw your attention to the next task. While this definitely is an okay way to get started, I do feel a series of quests or similar objectives would help a new player a lot more. With all tutorials complete, I asked the magic instructor to teleport us to the starting town of Lumbridge. In those next few seconds, I think of what I will do next. It does turn out this has changed since I last played, and I'm introduced with Adventure John to talk about adventure paths, a way to help guide new players on where to start. So I opened the menu and I decided on my first goal: complete the 15 combat related adventure tasks. While viewing the menu, I do see the mention of member rewards and think it would be a good time to touch on this. RuneScape is a membership game with a free-to-play area. Most of the skills and world is paid content via a monthly sub or a bond, which is something that is bought through in-game currency. As someone who plays MMOs and other online games, I don't have a problem with this, where the game still sees content updates. However, when I was younger, I never really got to play as a member, so while I will start in the free-to-play areas, I look forward to adventuring in the member areas, which were always locked to me. So with the first minor goal set on the combat skills, I dumped most of my starting inventory off the bank at the top of Lumbridge and began leveling my skills in the only way I know how, by killing hundreds of chickens. I had a little strategy down pat for this. I would bury the bones for prayer experience and cook the raw chicken for cooking experience, leveling multiple skills that I think will be quite useful for later on. At about 13 minutes in, I accidentally attacked a goblin. Not a big deal until it dropped a beginner clue scroll, and at that point I had a little fun distraction. So I got my attack to level 5 to get my steel sword from Adventurer John and went on a little treasure hunt. I opened the scroll and it told me to go find Raildal to play a game of Hot and Cold. Lucky for me, I do remember that this person lives in Varrock Castle and headed over in that direction. On the way, I sold my bronze sword and 3 raw chickens off at the general store, and by selling, I mean I gave away 3 chickens, not realizing they gave me no coins. I eventually make my way to Raildal and get the strange device used in the Hot and Cold game. Because I'm using the RuneLite third-party client, you will notice that I get a bit of locations marked up on where I need to go. Once I click that, it actually managed to work it out based on those 3 locations. I didn't mind this just because it makes it a bit easier and less more walking around. However, I do admit it can kill some of the fun. Although, I do have to admit, it doesn't help with the fact that I don't have a shovel. So, with 10 coins to my name, I'm going to have to go find a shovel out in the world. Luckily, I do know of one that's quite easy to get in Falador, so I begin heading off west to the city. So while travelling, I did think it would be a good idea to just go over a general rule of what I'm kind of planning for this account. I will use RuneLite mainly for the HD textures, but I will likely use some of the quest helpers and guides. However, a lot of the items used in those quests, I would rather be self-sufficient. So while I'm currently doing free to play, I'm not going to be buying anything off the Grand Exchange to finish the quests. but I might go collect the things before doing the quest, just to make it a bit easier. With that out of the way, I managed to get to our free shovel, and I grab it, and in typical me fashion, I head in the worst possible way back to where we need to go. Honestly, probably should have turned around and went back through the barbarian village and downwards, but I decided to do a full loop around. So we begin walking basically in the opposite direction we need to go, and on that way I encounter some highwaymen. Being lower level, they're going to attack me, and feeling a bit more brave with my level 5 attack and steel sword, I decide to try and fight them. Now, that wasn't the smartest idea I had, but he does eventually come down and we win that fight. Doesn't drop anything interesting though, and his friend wasn't too happy with that and decided to attack me. Now, being no food and very low health, I decide the smartest thing to do at this point is run away. So we just continue running to our next clue spot, and in thinking that, we might need to start a counter. So we'll add 1 to the amount of murders we have done on this adventure. With that successful escape, we have finally made our way to where we need to be for the dig site, and I don't even need to use the tool again. It looks like the game has already, or Runelight itself, has already determined where we need to dig. So we just follow the little red arrow on the mini-map, and eventually we get a nice arrow saying this is where we need to go. And if we think that was the end of this, it doesn't appear to be. Looks like we're going to be going on another little side quest for this treasure. So I open our next clue scroll, and we are destined to go visit Charlie the Tramp in Varrock, which is quite handy because it's very close to us. So we begin heading that way, and his request was a little strange. He asked for a new pair of pants, in particular some leather chaps. Now, I didn't actually know where I could get leather chaps from. They're not really something I ever really bought, so I never really touched the range skill as much. Considering you had to buy arrows, you couldn't make them as a free-to-play player, it was kind of a pain to deal with. And just to be clear, I played before the Grand Exchange, so kind of purchasing those arrows as a young child did not go well. You kind of bought them from the store at a very expensive price. So I did the smartest thing I could do, and I went to the Grand Exchange. With my 10 coins and pretty sure 25 coins in the bank, I was not confident that I could buy them. And it turns out they're quite cheap, and they were actually 5 coins. So, super easy. We took those pants, bought them off the Grand Exchange instantly, and took them back to Charlie. And his next request, or the next clue scroll, I should say, was questionable. So, a goblin had a clue scroll that led me to dig for a clue scroll that sent me to Charlie the Tramp, who asked me to buy him a new pair of pants, who then gave me a clue scroll that told me to talk to Charlie the Tramp to buy him, or get him, a raw trout. Now, I don't know if that's sus or not, but I feel like I just bought a tramp a new pair of pants, and now we're about to get him a fish dinner. And definitely don't think 5 coins is enough to buy a raw trout. So I kind of had to think. And I happened to remember, as we were walking to get the shovel, there was a particular, very few seconds you might have noticed, a scene where there was a reindeer fishing, and he was fishing for salmon and trout and dropping it. So I had an idea on how I could do this little quest, and it involved me running back to the barbarian village, getting that trout, and giving the dirt trout to Charlie the Tramp. Now, when I did get there, I did pick up all the trout and salmon there. Flawed fish sounds like it could come in usefulness in, the next few hours of gameplay, so we'll see how things go. And with that, we finished our little quest. He gave us a treasure, and inside a black full hill, and a longbow. Don't know if that little venture was worth it, but I mean, I had fun getting floor fish and feeding it to Charlie, and I'm sure he's happy with his leather chaps and his fish. So with that, we head back to the bank in Varrock, and that's where I call it for my first time jumping back into old school RuneScape.